Defense, Max Kellerman.
Drew Brees at home is always the answer, and especially when the Broncos' vaunted defense is missing their starting corners. Stephen A., I like the Saints' offense here.
I concur. I have nothing to add to that because the Saints are obviously electrifying in their big time, and we all know Drew Brees and what he brings to the table. They've got the #2 ranked offense. They've got the #1 passing attack in all of the NFL and a future Hall of Fame quarterback. I will say this, though. Is suspect as Denver's defense is, it ain't because of their secondary. It's because of their ability to defend against the run, along with the core linebackers that might be having some troubles defending tight ends. But it's not really their secondary in terms of those wideouts. They can handle their business.
But indoors
it's the front of their defense.
Indoors in that arena against Drew Brees, you better have your starting corners. Oh, it's a bad news if you don't have your starting corners.
The man is completing nearly 70% of his passes. This is the same guy I told you deserved his money. 21 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, QBR 66. Got to play respectable football.
We got to keep him
because
going.
Drew Brees is the face of the Saints.
All right, Vikings travel to D.C. to face the Redskins. Who do you trust more on Sunday, Stephen A.?
I'm going to trust the Redskins. I have no reason to trust them. They don't deserve my trust. They haven't earned it because they're too busy talking in supremacy in the NFC East instead of thinking about greener pastures. But nevertheless, I think the last 2 weeks, a tie and a loss, ultimately has got them, worried a little bit. I think a level of urgency gets attached to it. Without Adrian Peterson, with Sam Bradford not getting exposed because that offensive line can't protect him, with Stephon Diggs being the only reliable receiver, Kyle Rudolph's all right, but I'm just looking at Minnesota right now. They look vulnerable, and I think the Redskins are going to get them.
I like Minnesota because in a league where it's hard to stand out, how much special stuff do you see? You see the Raiders offense, the Falcons offense look special. The Patriots always look special. Certain defenses at times. Minnesota was one of those teams.
I like the Jams too, Stephen A.
There was a time where the Vikings looked special this year. That means they have it in them on defense, and I like the Vikings against Washington.
I want to go to a club with Stephen A. All right, Seahawks take on the Patriots in a rematch of Super Bowl 49. We'll see. I can't take it. Will the Seattle defense shut down Brady, Max?
There's no shutting down Tom Brady and the Patriots right now, but I don't think they have to win. I like Seattle in a good game against the Patriots to pull off the upset, not only because their defense will do as good a job as it's possible to do on the Patriots. Doesn't mean they'll shut them down. But I think the Seattle offense is starting to come around because Russell Wilson seems, to my eye, to be feeling a little better, posing more of a threat. So they won't shut them down, but they'll win.
Seattle's offense runs away from no one. They do what they need to do. The bottom line is that's an Achilles heel against a quarterback the quality of Tom Brady. He's too great. He's on a mission. He's balling. And it's lovely, lovely, Max Kellerman, to hear you say nobody's going to shut down Brady, the guy you don't believe deserves MVP because he missed 25% of the season.
Yes,
it's nice to hear you admit that nobody can shut him down because to me that epitomizes what an MVP should be.
Half the game so far. That's right. He's not in the MVP.
I love this segment.
Interrupting me don't make your point any better.
All right.
It's all right.
Let's move on. Let's move on. But I do feel like we're in the Jersey Shore right now, and I love it. Steelers are hosting the Cowboys. What do you expect from Big Ben Sunday? Stephen A., your Steelers.
I know he better show up. I know that Ben Roethlisberger better throw for better than 350 yards. He better find Antonio Brown early and often. Get Sammy Coates up in there. Darius Hayward-Bay. By the way, get Le'Veon Bell the ball, too. The Steelers better not lose this game and expose me to the worst fan base in American history, known as the Dallas Cowboys. The Steelers will win this game because they're going to do it for me.
Stephen A., what's your Twitter handle again?
Huh? I'm not saying.
At Stephen A. Smith.
People to DM you with messages about the Cowboys.
At Stephen A. Smith.
I think the Steelers.
Facebook.com/Stephen A.
Steelers are a great franchise with a great offense when it's clicking and a great quarterback. I expect Ben Roethlisberger to come up big.
He better. He better show up.
And Antonio Brown's going to put up numbers eventually. Come on.
Listen, y'all. I understand we battle here on the show and all of this stuff, but y'all better show me some damn love. Don't expose me to this. The Steelers better show up. I'm telling you right now, I can't deal with the Cowboy fans. I can't deal with them. I can't take it. If they beat my Steelers, I might not show up to work Monday. I'm trying to tell y'all right now. I'm warning y'all. Steelers better show up.
Sick calls.
Steelers better show up.
You want to get out your cell on the air?
You don't miss work. Your attendance is perfect.
Boss Dave Roberts, yo, man. I'm calling in Monday.
Please.
I'm taking Monday. I can't deal with the Dallas
How do you
Cowboys.
think
I can't
Browns
deal with
fans
it.
feel right now? Think of the city of Cleveland, what they have to deal with. Did you see that last night?
The hell
They
with
have
that.
it
I
hard.
ain't thinking about
Not
that right
you.
now.
Oh,
Not
Cowboys,
you.
Browns fans.
absolute.
Sorry, dog.
Cowboys.
It's the Battle of the Birds when Philly faces the struggling Eagles hosting the NFC South leading Falcons. Carson Wentz and company have lost 4 of their last 5 games after starting the season 3-0. Mark Schlereth at the desk. How we doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good.
Hardest working man in
Friday.
show business, outside of Stephen A. Smith.
Right. No, I don't even compare to you guys. So.
Yeah, right. Every
Life's
time I see him, he's on the radio, he's on TV. I pass him in the halls, he's got his head studying something.
Every day is a paid vacation. That's my life.
Right?
It's good.
When you love what you do.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
What happened to the Eagles?
Listen, they started off, obviously, they started off great. Everybody's on the Wentz wagon. There's no question about that. Defense is much better than it was. I think a couple of things. The way teams are playing the Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think anybody is truly threatened by their receiving core.
Yeah.
And so I think you're seeing a lot of man coverage. You're seeing a lot of opportunity taken away from the Eagles in the passing game because they're not threatened there. So I think it puts a lot more pressure on the rest of that offensive football team. Plus, they lost their starting right tackle, who's a really good tackle in Lane Johnson. So they've had some issues on the offensive side of the board. But I think it really comes down to the way teams have evaluated them after those first 3 games, what their weaknesses are, and taking away the strengths of that football team and making them beat you in the passing game versus man coverage, and they just haven't done it consistently enough.
Look, what Mark Schlereth has forgotten about football, I'll never know. But I think that's not even that complicated. I think you hit the nail on the head with Lane Johnson. If you look at the way their offense was working when he was on the field, Carson Wentz's QBR was 70. And since he has not been on the field, it's 26. I mean, that correlation, that doesn't mean it's the only factor, but whoa. You lose that guy off the offensive line, and the quarterback goes from he's playing at MVP level to he's a scrub, basically, without him. I don't mean he is, but the level of production, I think that tells the story. The defense is about the same, more or less.
Right.
But as soon as they lose their elite offensive linemen, the offense, goes down the drain.
Yeah, there's no question that that's a big factor in it, and it's like many things when we talk about the ratings of the NFL. Why are the ratings of the NFL down?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of different factors that contribute to those ratings going down, just like there are a lot of factors that go on this offense, Lane Johnson being a big part of the reason they're struggling right now. But also, like I said, I don't believe they have a true separation guy. And anytime you game plan to play a group, a team, you're a defense, you're always trying to essentially, like the New England Patriots say, make you play left-handed. Let's take away their strengths and let's make them play to their weaknesses. And I think a lot of teams are making them play to their weaknesses by, like I said, using some man coverage, and they're not threatened by that receiving core really going off on them. And so they take a lot of the stuff away that they can do.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up because that's been my focal point about the Philadelphia Eagles all year long, particularly for the last 5 weeks in which they've lost. All you have is Jordan Matthews. He's got 507 yards receiving. If you look at the rest of the receivers right here, you've got Aguilar. He's got 257 yards receiving. You've got, who is this kid? Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, along with Brent Selleck. Once upon a time, Schlereth, correct me if I'm wrong, it was all about the tight ends, particularly when you look at a New England and you see Gronkowski, back in the days with Aaron Hernandez. Now you got Martellus Bennett. You see what the Steelers would love to do if Ladarius Green could stay healthy, along with the kid that they also have there now. You look at a lot of these teams and you want to utilize the tight ends because, you got somebody that you could throw the ball to the middle of the field in between the seams. And obviously in short yardage situations, it enables you to get rid of the ball quickly. And as a result, it protects the quarterback. So in an ideal world, those guys would like to do that. I don't understand why the Eagles with Ertz, with Selleck, aren't doing more of that than that. I suspect that some of it has to do the combination of the receivers that you don't have available to you to help Jordan Matthews and the combination of the running game that you really are lacking right now. Ryan Matthews is averaging less than 4 yards a carry. If you look at him, combined with Darren Sproles, he's got about 76 carries. Darren Sproles has about 59. That's nothing compared to what the number one rushing attack in the game is doing right now with Ezekiel Elliott and the Dallas Cowboys in terms of the touches. And so what I'm looking at is maybe, just maybe, you would know this better than me, Schlereth, are the tight ends stepping back and engaging in pass protection? Are they not being targeted enough by Doug Peterson? I mean, it doesn't really make much sense to me, but it definitely comes down to the absence of a passing game. And because you don't have that passing game, that puts Carson Wentz more at risk. It ultimately enables them to get off the field. It's putting their defense on the field more, and ultimately they're wearing down, and I think that's a problem for them.
Yeah, I think, and you bring up a good point, but I think when you're talking about tight ends, all tight ends are not created equal. And everybody likes to talk about the two tight end formations that the New England Patriots trot out there all the time.
Yeah.
Well, let's just not forget that you're trotting out two freak shows. Athletically, absolute freak shows. Both Bennett and Gronkowski freak shows because they can split out away from the formation. So when you see that, and those two guys, you have to understand, they can be in line. They can be motion across the formation, wham guys, trap guys, lead guys, block on the backside of a formation, block on the front side of a formation. So they open up your whole running game, and you have to look at that as a threat as a defense. But they can also explode out of those formations and get matchups one-on-one at tight ends, on safeties, on linebackers, and they can exploit you there. Zach Ertz, you talk about those guys in Philadelphia, they're not the same guys. They're good receivers. You know, they can go out there, Brent Selleck, they can go out there and they can catch the football, but they're not inline guys. They're not motion across the formation and blow guys up. They don't have that aspect to them. So they're not as multiple as the tight ends in New England. Everybody wants to do it.
Guys,
not everybody can do it.
I want to hit on the Falcons. You have a quick point? Or
Well, I just think one thing about coaching is that we haven't mentioned Peterson kind of having a problem coaching and clock management and play calling late in games, which resulted in 2 losses. And to your point, Bennett was always a B-plus tight end with potential. But when he got with Belichick, suddenly he's a freak show. I mean, he may have always been talent-wise that, but the production is there all of a sudden because he gets to the right coach. We hadn't really mentioned Peterson.
Let's talk Atlanta. They're 6-3. Are they getting the credit that they deserve?
Oh,
Or the respect?
I believe so. I think inside the walls of NFL, I mean, I think we look at them and say, well, a year ago they were 5-0, and then they really struggled down the stretch. I think right now you look at them differently. In the last 5 games, 16 sacks. I believe that's 3rd in the league. This is a team that couldn't sack the quarterback a year ago, didn't sack the quarterback early until they met the Denver Broncos and tore them up. So they're a different football team, offensively more weapons and more balance. And you know, I think the rapport between offense coordinator Kyle Shanahan and Matt Ryan has grown to where all of a sudden last year it was Matt Ryan can't operate this offense. He's washed up to Matt Ryan MVP chance.
Yeah.
You know, it's completely changed. But I think in the walls of NFL analysts and NFL general managers, they'll tell you this is a really good football team.
Stephen A.?
Well, it's a really good football team, but there's a hole. They're the 2nd worst defense against the pass in all of the NFL. The ability to get to the quarterback over the last 3 games is to be commended, but we have to be careful about elevating them too much because they're suspect against the pass, Schlereth. We know how high-powered they are offensively. Matt Ryan's an MVP candidate. We get that. This kid, Tevin Coleman, coming out of the backfield to catch passes is potentially explosive. Devontae Freeman is averaging nearly 5 yards a carry. So there's a running game there. They've got Julio Jones. Mohamed Sanu has been a big pickup for them as a secondary receiver, and they deserve credit for that. Your boy, Jacob Tammy, you remember him from his days in Denver. You've got him there. They're very good for them. But here's the key. They should win a lot of these games because their weakness, which is against the pass, they got Philly, Arizona, Kansas City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Carolina, none of who are high-powered juggernauts with the pass. The only team they have to worry about big time against the pass is their season finale, regular season finale against the Saints. So to me, they could end up with a great record. But it could come across as a bit deceiving because they may not necessarily have to go up against a high-powered passing attack that's there to potentially expose them. That's my question about the Atlanta Falcons, but they are very good.
If the question is, which it was, are the Falcons getting the respect they deserve? Yes. Everyone knows what the Falcons are. They are the NFC version of the Raiders. High-powered offense. If the defense can bend and not break, they can do something. But, you know, the defense is lagging and the offense is tremendous. I think people know who the Falcons are.
Let's leave it there, but you're not going anywhere. Staying with us for more fun. Mark Schlereth. Cam has the Panthers back on track, but can they still make the playoffs? That is the question. Up next, stay tuned. It's First Take. After starting the season 1-5, Cam and the Panthers go for their third straight win when they host the 6-2 Chiefs. Carolina is a 3-point favorite. Stephen A., who wins it?
I got to tell you something right now. When I look at this, I'm going to roll with the Panthers because I think the Chiefs are a different team on the road than they are at home, record aside. I know they've been balling right now. What have they won? 4 straight and 5 of their last 6. Andy Reid, my buddy from his Philadelphia days, is obviously doing an outstanding job. Questionable health on the part of Alex Smith. Jamal Charles not being in there, even though the boys, Jarkandrick Weston, those boys have been playing well enough anyway, especially Spencer Ware at the running back spot. I just think it's one of those situations where Carolina is trying to get it together. There's a level of urgency. Every game really counts right now. They lose another game like this, their season could be over, particularly since they're in the same division as the Atlanta Falcons. I think recognizing that, there's going to be an elevated level of urgency in Charlotte, North Carolina. Carolina will answer the call, and I don't view Kansas City's offense as high-powered enough to really take advantage and exploit that secondary in Carolina the way that other teams could. I think this is the kind of game that's tailor-made for Carolina on their home turf, and I think they'll find a way to win it.
Yeah, what this game comes down, I mean, instead of just repeating what Stephen A. Smith just said, about this we think along the same lines. What it comes down to is this. Do you think the Panthers season is over? Because if you think the Panthers season is over, pick against them. But if you think that they have enough in them coming off the Super Bowl appearance to continue going forward this season and maybe make the playoffs, at least keep that hope alive, then you pick the Panthers, and I feel the latter, so I'm taking the Panthers to win.
I'm taking the Panthers as well. And I look at Kansas City like, I think from a passing game standpoint, that's where they have a tough time, especially as Alex Smith is playing the quarterback position, exploiting a team downfield. Macklin was a little banged up last week. Don't know what his status is right now. But that one is the one that concerns me. And I always seem to feel like the Kansas City Chiefs kind of play to the level of the competition that they're playing against. So they're going to step down a level in Carolina right now. Believe it or not, Cam Newton has better stats right now through the first 8 starts this year than he did last year. And he got hot in the second half of the season. Defensively, their front seven is starting to play a little bit better in Carolina. I like Carolina in a tight game against Kansas City.
What do you think is the bigger factor, the fact that they're playing at home or the level of desperation that Carolina has to have?
I think it's the level of desperation. Yeah, I agree. There is both of those, but I think it's the level of desperation right now. And you see a glimmer of hope. I mean, let's face it. You look at the 2 top teams in the league right now. AFC is New England. NFC right now is the Dallas Cowboys. They're playing better than anybody else. But in the NFC, you have to look at yourself at 3-5 right now and go, if we get on a run here, we got every chance in the world to at least compete for a possibility to win this division. And, oh, by the way, at least we'll be in the fight. If we can go, 10-6-ish, we're going to be in the fight for
3-6, it's over.
Right. We're going to be in a fight for a wild card spot. So I think it's the desperation aspect.
Stephen A., you think they have a shot to reach the playoffs?
I think they have a shot still because I think the NFC is up for grabs. If the Eagles, I think you got to look at the Giants right now. The way that the Giants are playing, they can ruin everything because they already have 5 wins on the season. So, you got Dallas in the NFC East. You got, you don't know what's going to happen in the NFC North because of Green Bay, Minnesota, and Detroit. So you got to assume that one of the wild cards could potentially come from there. I think that's what Carolina is battling for. I don't know if it's going to come out of the NFC West this time around. So if you're Carolina, you've got your eyes on Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit in the North, and likely, in all likelihood, the Giants in the NFC East. Could you get one of those slots? The likelihood is possible because somebody for the NFC North could fall off and somebody could stand above the crowd. That's what Carolina's going to have to fight with.
By the way, even in the East, the NFC East complicates it because in the beginning of the season, we looked at the NFC East and thought it's a bad division, but as usual, the NFL can surprise you. And it turns out the wild card easily come out of the NFC East. They have good records in that division. And even the Cowboys, it feels like the Cowboys are running away with it. All the Giants have to do is pick up one game between now and Week 13 when they play the Cowboys. And if they can win that game, which is at home, and the Giants have already beaten them at Dallas, they are in first place, not the Cowboys, because they'll also have the tiebreaker, obviously. So in terms of the Panthers winning or getting a playoff spot, I think they actually need to win the division. Fortunately for them, if they win this game, they can do it. Like, you can't lose.
I think what we're saying, but what we're saying right now is that a wild card is likely going to come out of the NFC East. So
Right.
it's going to be a battle between the North and the South as to where that second wild card is going to come from. That's what it comes down to for me, Schlereth. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at the NFC East and saying, in all likelihood, you could get both wild cards out of the NFC East because the Washington Redskins, don't forget, 4-3-1 right now, and they got hot in the second half of last season. So, I mean, I'm with you. I think one of the wild cards, at least one, comes out of the NFC East, and I'm with you on the North-South.
And the Falcons have collapsed in the second half.
Wait, you guys, let's pull up the schedule quickly because they still have games against the Seahawks, Raiders, and Falcons. And I want to know specifically, how many losses do you think they'll have, Mark, when you're looking at this schedule moving forward? Because it's not easy.
No, it's certainly not. It's certainly not easy. There's no question about that. And it depends on how hot they get. You know, you always worry about them playing teams that can throw the ball because that secondary was fractured, and they counted on that front seven. Well, that front seven hasn't been the same. Short hasn't been the same from a production standpoint of rushing the quarterback. Ely hasn't been the same rushing the quarterback. So it's been different for Carolina this year as that stellar defense last year really dominated. This year they're struggling to dominate and find that domination and find that balance between the back end and the front end of that defense.
Stephen A.
Well, I'm on record. I think Carolina is going to win 6 of their next 8 games. I don't believe they're going to lose another home game. I think they're going to protect their home turf. They're going to lose one of those road games against the Raiders in Seattle. I'll wait and hold off judgment on whether or not they'll lose to the Redskins on the road because, Schlereth, here's the deal. The Redskins and their fan base got a little bit sensitive when I got to call them out a few weeks ago. They came back at me pretty hard, and they haven't won a damn game since. So this is what happened to them, Schlereth. You know, they came at your boy, and now bad luck is coming their way.
I have a question for Schlereth real quick.
I think they're going to overcome it this weekend. I think the Redskins will get something done this weekend. We'll see. But right now, bad luck is staining them a little bit.
Real
They
quick
messed
on
with your boy.
real
They
quick
messed
on the
with your boy.
Panthers. So how much of that, like from the media's point of view, right? Like a fan or someone in the media looks at the Panthers and said the story here is how much championship metal do they have, right? They just got to the Super Bowl. They won the NFC. This is now a test to me, sitting back and watching this, of do they have that championship metal? Is that all nonsense or is there something to that?
No, I think there's definitely something to that. I mean, we always talk about learning how to win, learning how to get over the top in tight situations. I think the biggest thing with the Raiders, I think we all thought the Raiders were really talented last year. They still ended up, what, 8-8? Mm-hmm. But this year they have learned how to win those close games. All of a sudden, overtime games in New Orleans, bam, you win a game. You know, that's what they've been able to do. Or I don't know if that was an overtime game, but it was that last play. They go for 2, whatever the case may be. They have learned to win those tight games where they didn't last year. So I think there is something of that championship medal that you're talking about.
They're closing.
Yeah.
Mark, always good to see you. We'll see
My
you
pleasure.
next week. Have
See
an
you guys.
awesome weekend.
Yep.